So we're going to do a little bike inspection here before we go out on the road. The difference between having a bike in good condition or bad condition can be the difference between an accident or just simply being stranded. Neither one, which makes for a very good day. So let's go ahead and start with what I consider probably the most important part of the bike, and that's the tires. So when we look at the tires, what we're looking for is that there's adequate depth in the rain grooves here. And I mentioned rain grooves because that's what it does. It displaces water and rain. We're also looking at the age of the tire. So on the tire, you'll find a DOT, and you'll find 4 numbers at the end of that line. The last 4 numbers are the birth date of the tire. So this particular tire is made in the 40th week of 2015. This is very important because on a sport bike, your tires will start losing traction after only about 2 years. So often they'll age out before you actually wear them out. While we're on the front of the bike, here's some other things we want to look at. This one has anti-lock brakes or ABS, and it has an ABS ring. I want to make sure that that ABS ring is secured in place and that there's no damage to the ring. The sensor doesn't have any damage to the lines or the wires here. So there's no fluid leaking, our hoses aren't cracked, and that our brake pads are in good shape. If we move to the back, same thing. I'm looking at the tire for condition, making sure I have adequate siping, and I make sure that the tire is not too old. I'm also making sure no damage or dents to the rim, no cracks in the rim. And on the back, I check the ABS ring, I check the rotor, and I check the brake pads. But right in here on the brake caliper, you can see the brake pads. And what they are is a metal back plate with fiber that's glued to the top of it. Here's the fiber. Since this is a new bike, it's very easy to see. These are brand new pads on the bike. If they wear down and they touch metal, you're not going to be stopping very fast. So this is a good thing to be checking. On the sidewall of the tire, you'll find an air pressure that's recommended for maximum load. That's not maximum traction. As we move along, so you have the foot pedal here for the rear brake, so you want to make sure all your pivots move freely, nothing hangs up, so when you move that. But also you have this reservoir here. And inside the reservoir, you have fluid. The fluid should be almost clear or a very light gold color. If it starts looking like coffee, tea, or Coke, that's a really bad thing. It needs to be bled out and maintained. And that should happen about every 2 years, even if you're not riding the bike. The front brake system, same thing. We check the lever to make sure that it works properly. So a smooth motion is what we're looking for. And if you pull the brake in and squeeze it very slowly, you want to make sure that it doesn't get gritty, that it's a nice smooth motion. This reservoir is up here on the handlebars, and it has a little sight window here on the back. If you look inside the sight window again, you'll see that fluid, that brake fluid, and it should be a very light colored, almost clear or light gold colored. We have the throttle. It should always snap back to its original position. So if you just open it up, and when you let go, it should always snap shut. If that happens, or if it has any hang up, that needs to be maintained. The other things that are kind of important while we're down here is the motor itself. We want to make sure that it has, its lifeblood, and that happens to be oil. So there's an oil fill cap here. And this bike has a window. It's a little peep window, and if you take the bike and level it up, and this is usually done when the motor's hot and the oil's warm so that it expands, and you want to make sure that the oil ends right in between the 2 marks on the bottom and the top of the window. In this case, this bike is brand new, so it's very clear. It's common to have a darker color, but it does need to be changed every season. Moving up the bike a little bit, let's take a look at the back here. We have turn signals. We have the brake light. This only has a single bulb on the brake light. That means if it burns out, nobody knows what's going on. So this should be checked every time. Turn signals, same thing. So check both turn signals left and right, that your tail light works and that your brake light works. On the front, we have turn signals, we have headlights. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other side of the bike. Okay, so going back to the front of the bike, we're on the left side now. Let's go ahead and check the fork legs and make sure they're not leaking. So this is the front fork leg. And if you go all the way to the top, you'll find that there's a chrome up here. And you're making sure that no fluid is built up on that chrome or leaking down the back of the fork leg on either side of the motorcycle. If that does, then your suspension is not working correctly, or worse yet, that oil is going to leak onto your brake rotors and your brakes aren't going to work. Moving towards the middle of the bike, the 2 things that matter in the center of the bike here, one is that your side stand actually snaps back up and stays into position, so that doesn't come down while you're riding. When it comes down, it stays where it's supposed to be. On this side, you just have your shifter for shifting up and down. Make sure that it's moving clean that there's no hang up on it. Also, these are adjustable, so you can raise or lower the height so it fits you as a rider. That gives you better control of the bike. Moving to the back of the bike, here's probably the second most thing that's neglected besides tires is the chain. And what you're looking for in the chain is if you grab the very back of the chain here and you pull, it doesn't come off of the back sprocket. If it has movement, then the chain is worn, needs replacement. Most of the modern bikes have what's called an O-ring chain. Many people believe that an O-ring chain means no maintenance. This is what an O-ring chain looks like off the bike. There's an outer plate, an inner link, and in between those is a little black spot, and that's an O-ring that holds fluid inside the chain. Many riders don't lubricate them, they dry out, and then the chains fail. Or worse yet, they keep spraying new lubricant onto it, and then they just keep trapping all the goop inside. So make sure that that keeps clean, that you adjust this. This should be done about every 500 miles. You're also looking for tension on the chain. It should have some slack in it. Each motorcycle has a little different rating. That's usually written right here on the swing arm itself. So if you don't know how much movement there should be, it's on the motorcycle or it's in your owner's manual. That adjustment's done back here at the axle. So let's move up to one of our final items here. This is the clutch. This one is a cable. You can tell there's a cable comes into it. You'll know if it's a hydraulic, like the brake, because they'll have a reservoir just like the brake on this side. So if it has a reservoir, you need to check the fluid just like you do the brakes. If it has a cable, what you want to do is squeeze in the clutch and look in this little gap right here, and you can see the cable. Here's what you're looking for. If you look at this cable here that's failing, you can see these little pieces of metal sticking out. That's what it looks like. And the way you'll see those is when you pull this open, you'll notice those little strands sticking out from inside here. If that's the case, don't ride your motorcycle. The last and final thing to do here is make sure the switches all work. So the high beams, the turn signals, your horn, just make sure everything's operating properly, then go enjoy the day.